You're leading something, whether you like it or not. What are you leading right now? Welcome to the Man in Motion podcast, episode 6, Every Man Leads Something. I'm Bob, and this is a show about what it means to be a man in today's world, navigating real life with strength, purpose, and clarity. We talk growth, responsibility, and the ongoing work of becoming, all without losing the core of who we are. This isn't about hypes or hacks. It's not about fixing yourself because you're not broken. It's about awareness, grounded thinking, and choosing direction while you're already in motion. No excuses, ever forward. Most men think leadership requires a title. It doesn't. Every single man that is watching this is leading something. We don't have a good idea of what leadership actually is. Leadership is how you serve what's been entrusted to you, whether you acknowledge it or not. Let's unpack that for a second. People like to think of a leader as someone that is in charge. And that phrase has gotten twisted over time. See, the phrase actually started with this idea that the people that you lead are in your charge. Okay, that's a very different concept than being in charge. We think of in charge and it's the boss, right? The supervisor comes down and he tells you what to do, and you got to bring him coffee and lunch and whatever. And if you take it back to that other concept, the idea that the leader has all these people in his charge and he is responsible for their care, you really start to see where this whole modern idea of I'm the boss and I'm in charge, it starts to fall apart. But we'll get back to this in a minute. See, I look at leadership. I learned leadership in the United States Marine Corps. Some of the best leaders in the world, small unit leaders, large tactical units, you name it, the Marine Corps produces the best leaders at it, hands down. I have a very service-based view of leadership. And I know there's people going, wait a minute, what? Military leaders serve their people? Yes. Believe it or not, it doesn't seem like it from the outside, but they do. A lot of people are probably looking at me right now going, what in the hell are you talking about, Bob? There's no way you're going to convince me that the leadership in the military, especially the United States Marine Corps, which is notoriously rough, is about service to those who are below them. And from the outside, it probably looks that way. You ask any Marine who has hit the rank of corporal or higher, who eats first? When you go to the chow hall, who eats first? And their instant response is going to be the most junior man in the unit. Because at its core, at its soul, and hidden underneath all of those layers of discipline and coordination and that tough persona is this idea that the higher up the ladder you go, the more your authority exists to serve those below you. So I know that's a bit of a jump. It's kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit. So we'll come back to this a little bit more later on. Leadership falls down into really 3 domains. And I can already hear people scratching their heads going, what in the hell does leadership have to do with me as a man? Well, I'm going to tell you. See, there's 3 main spheres of leadership. There's the internal domain, the relational domain, and the structural domain. And I'm not going to go all textbook. So don't click that off button. Don't click the stop. Don't go to the next podcast. Follow me for a minute. Stick with me. This is important, guys. This is where we start building, right? This is the first thing we have to master, is leadership of that internal domain, which is how we govern ourselves. I've said this a couple times. Every man leads something. Before you can lead a home or a family or an office, or before you can influence anyone else, You have to lead you. If leadership is service to what falls under your authority, then the first thing under your authority is yourself. Are you in control of your reactions? Are you in control of your tone, your habits, your consistency? When you start to look at that, you realize, man, I might not be leading myself the greatest. And this is the important part, because this is where everything starts, in how you lead yourself. Internal leadership is stability. It's your ability to say, I'm not going to react like this. I'm not going to have that extra cup of coffee. Maybe I don't need that ninth beer. Maybe I need to go to the gym. Maybe I should eat something green. Maybe I should go to bed at a reasonable hour. Maybe I shouldn't react out of anger. Maybe I should show up when I say I'm going. That internal discipline, it matters. Your internal discipline becomes external influence. The way you show up becomes the standard everyone else works inside of. Which brings us to the second domain, relational leadership. Your internal discipline, how you hold yourself, how you carry yourself, the standard you set, because you are setting a standard whether you realize it or not. The way you show up becomes the standard everyone else works inside of. Think about that. You don't have to announce, hey, I'm the big boss man. You don't have to strut around with a, name tag on that says I'm the boss. If you show up and you're leading yourself well, I can guarantee you the world around you is going to move. It's going to recognize that. And people are going to respond to that. They're going to respond to how you carry yourself. This thought of, well, not my problem because I'm not the boss, doesn't always work. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you showed up somewhere and you rolled in like a thunderstorm? Just chaos, and you're late and you're running around. What happens to everyone around you? They get drawn right into it. Your craziness infects them, and now you're all running around like crazy, trying to deal with whatever that probably doesn't even need that. What about if you walk in and you're calm and you're steady and everything else is in shambles, and you plant your feet and you become the rock upon which those waves will break? The room calms down. The people around you calm down. Men, we set the tone for ourselves, for each other, for the world around us. If you show up and you're leading yourself well and in a disciplined manner, and that's not to say disciplined in the manner of, my tie is exactly straight and my belt is in a perfect position and my shoes are. I mean discipline in that you are leading yourself well. You could have the most slovenly appearance and still be leading yourself well, and people will respond to that. That's those natural leaders you see. But here's the other side to that. The things that you're willing to tolerate are going to spread. The things that you model, they're going to repeat. What you reinforce strengthens. And I don't care who you are, this is true. Ladies, this is true for you too. Don't ever, ever underestimate the effect that you, ladies, have on your men when you show up calm and collected and he's worried and running in circles. Your calmness is going to soothe him. And men, it's the other way too. When she's running around going crazy because the kids are driving her nuts or something's happening, something's going on, and you show up and you plant your feet, I can guarantee you the air around you will change. See, this isn't dominance. It's not about showing up and being the biggest dog in the room. It's about being a presence. It's about being an influence that is being observed. And that is why that self-governance is so important, because it's how you interact with those around you. I'm going to tell you a story here. Recently, and I'm not going to name names because, quite frankly, the company involved has a much larger legal department than I do. I was involved in a contract negotiation. I'm a union member, and our union was negotiating a rather large contract, and it had been ongoing for a number of years. And it was heading towards a strike. And yes, I do have a leadership position, but it is a very minor one. So when my leadership came to me and said, hey, we just need someone to coordinate the actual physical strike. All we need you to do is just coordinate between a couple of people and just handle stuff like that between these couple of different groups. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And as I took the position on, I very quickly realized that there was no one driving this wagon. And I wasn't expressly given the authority to do this. But I took the reins. I stepped in. And I said to my general chairman, I told him, I said, I'm taking this whole thing over. I said, I'm just gonna start giving people orders. I don't care if you want me to, I don't care if you don't. Someone needs to do it, and until it starts happening, it's gonna be me. And I didn't wait for an answer. I just started leading. What had stalled for months was now done in days. And what had been something akin to herding cats as far as organization was concerned turned into something that was structured and ordered. And it was in days, not weeks, not months, days. And yeah, there were the things that fell through the cracks that had to get adjusted on the fly. But now, because I had stepped up and took the reins, and I just took them, there was someone to go to. The problems that came up got resolved. And it was all because I showed up and I conducted myself in a manner similar to what you would expect from a leader. No one gave me a title. After it started happening, yes, I did eventually get the title of strike coordinator. But it didn't start that way. And quite frankly, I'm pretty certain I got that title simply because I just started doing the job and someone needed to. So that is a great example of how just showing up and being that presence and acting like it to the world around you, leading yourself and holding others to a standard. I told you earlier I would come back to this idea of what we use our authority for, what it exists for. So the Marine Corps teaches that the purpose of leadership is to make sure those whom you have authority over have the training, the supplies, the technique, and the opportunity to succeed. And when those fail, and it's necessary, then you are to instill discipline. I think that's important. That's very important, how that last one is placed. Because that one comes up only when all the others have failed. Think about that. If something depends on you, your job is to serve it. You're supposed to protect it. You're supposed to equip it. You're supposed to remove obstacles that it can't handle for itself. That's what a parent does with a child. You know, child wants a bowl of Cheerios, but they're 4 years old. Child can't pour itself a bowl of Cheerios at 4 years old. Milk will end up all over the floor. A box of Cheerios will be torn in half, and the dog will be eating half of them. But if you set that child up to a place where you help it with the box, you open the box for it and help it pour. You help the child pick up the heavy gallon of milk and dump some milk in, and you hand them a spoon. It's the simplest explanation of servant leadership I can come up with. See, the idea isn't to carry people. You want to clear the obstacles that they can't clear themselves. Your authority is your strength that you can direct outward. And that's what I love about servant leadership, is that when those under you succeed, that's your success. As a leader, that's such a great feeling. Because you know that they're succeeding because you succeeded. But the opposite's also true. When they fail, it's you that failed them. It means you didn't give them the training or the materials or the opportunity to succeed. You didn't remove the obstacles for them that they couldn't remove themselves. And then it becomes your job to look at yourself and to figure out what can you do better next time. Now we've kind of gone pretty far afield here on this topic, this idea of leadership, and we've talked about these 3 different domains. But the reality of life is that you're operating in all 3 of these domains at once. And if you have an internal stability leak, if you're not rock solid on something inside yourself, it's going to show. If you're slacking off and not following your doctor's directions and you're sickly, or if you're not taking care of yourself, or you're not sleeping enough, or you don't eat a salad once in a blue moon, something green, it's going to show. And that's going to create instability in yourself, that internal domain of leadership. You're leading yourself poorly. If you're leading yourself poorly, that's going to leak out into that relational, where that aura around you, the people around you are going to feel that, and you're not going to be leading them as well. And you see this time and again in businesses where low-level, mid-level managers, they're not leading well because their life is a shambles. Or you'll have that guy that's rock solid all the time, and then all of a sudden he starts slipping, and everything around him starts slipping. All this is connected. So if something feels off, figure out where it is. Is it internal? Is your discipline in place? Are your reactions appropriate to what's going on around you? Or are you letting frustration from situation A bleed into situation B? And are you consistent with yourself? That consistency with yourself, giving yourself the grace to take care of yourself, giving yourself the time and the space to actually maintain yourself matters. You matter in this whole equation, because in all of this, it starts with you. If Is something off in your relational presence? Are you not showing up in the manner that you would have before? Is your appearance changing? Are you not holding to your same standards of what you expect people around you? Are you using different standards for different people? Again, is that your tone? Are you frustrated with something in situation A that is bleeding into situation B? Or is it part of the structural domain, where that idea of what you've created around you and how you actively lead those around you? Are you being clear? Is there friction in some place that represents something that maybe you're not even equipped to handle and your leadership is failing on? You don't become a leader later. You don't need a title. And you damn sure don't wait for permission. Because I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, you are already operating in all three of these domains. Opting out, saying, nope, not me, it's not an option. The options are lead well or lead poorly. So where does that leave us? Where does that take us? In episode 1 and 2 and 3, several times I said, don't blow everything up. Don't burn your whole life to cinders and start over. And that's a big mistake we all try to make. We all try to change too much at once. So here's what I want you to do. If you've looked at this and you're going, man, I'm really slacking at fill in the blank. That is your point of movement. That is where you start. Or maybe it's doing pretty good at this, but I think I could do it a little better. Maybe that's your point of starting. Because that's not such a big undertaking and you're already doing it well. You're just trying to do it a little better. And once you start that momentum, it's going to compound. And then it's going to make the next thing you work on be a little bit easier. And then the next thing be a little bit easier. And the next thing, and the next thing. Until eventually, change and growth, which is what we're here to do, guys, it's going to become your just normal day-to-day operation. You're going to show up every day 1% better. And it's such a small increment, and it makes such a difference. 1%, guys, every day 1% better. Internal stability is first. Relational stability is next, and then that structure will grow. That's how environments improve. That's how homes get stabilized. That's how teams build, work environments, everything. By building yourself, you're going to build those other things. If you look at every successful man, I guarantee you there's a man who has great self-discipline and he leads himself well. Leadership, it feels damn uncomfortable when you don't have no idea who you are. It feels unstable when you don't know what you're standing for. When your goals are unclear, everything you do is going to feel like a reaction to the world around you. And it will be, because you don't know what you're shooting for yet, what the goal is. You're just this way, that way, the other way, this way, back here, back there. You're just reacting to opportunity. You're not actually driving the car. You're sitting as a passenger. And the biggest one, unclear identity, not knowing who you are, not knowing what you stand for, not knowing what your principles are, what matters to you, creates hesitation in your leadership. Because if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you stand for, how the hell are you going to be the standard that someone measures themselves by? That clarity of having your identity is everything. Decisions get easier. When you know your values, pressure doesn't shake you because you know what you stand for. When your goals are defined, your authority has a direction to be channeled towards. And with all of these things, leadership stops being stressful when you become aligned. It's just natural. This is the way we go. And that's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And again, it just comes back to that idea that who you are, that internal domain, how you lead yourself, it matters because it stabilizes everything else. When you know what your standards are, everyone else around you is going to have a clearer idea of where we're going. And then eventually, that structure, the structure as it solidifies around that relation, it's going to become pretty well damn defined. And the people around you that are responding to your leadership, whether you have that title or not, they're going to start driving the process for you. You don't need to be louder, guys. You don't need to be harder. You don't need to be stronger. And you don't need to work harder. You need to be clearer. Clearer with yourself, clearer with others around you. Because that clarity makes you steady. Steadiness will build trust. And trust is what's going to make that leadership sustainable, even for yourself. This is a thing. And I didn't learn this until recently. That you have to learn to trust yourself. Because it all starts there. We started this episode with a question. What are you leading right now? Because the question really isn't, are you a leader? The question is, are you leading yourself intentionally? Gentlemen and ladies, that's all for today. Take what's useful. Leave what's not. Know who you are and keep moving.